It's my great pleasure to welcome you here in Belgrade on the behalf of CRTA, Center for Research Transparency and Accountability. My name is Misha Bojovic, and CRTA is one of the partners on the project Increasing Civic Engagement in the Digital Agenda. The idea for the topic of today's conference also came from one of the researches that CRTA did recently when it comes to use of algorithms in the automated decision-making process. It was done in cooperation with partners from Poland, Georgia, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. And one of the results of this research was that none of the countries actually had transparency standards in place when it comes to use of algorithms, that also no ethical standards were respected, nor were there any impact or needs assessment when it comes to the use of algorithms and their impact to the life of individuals and the whole society. And also the explanations provided for the specific algorithms were either too complicated or they didn't answer the right questions. So I hope that today's conference will maybe shed some light on some of these issues, and I hope that there will be some recommendations that we can use in future to improve the status in this area. I wish you all very fruitful discussion, and now I would ask my colleague Bardil to maybe share a couple of sentences about our joint project. Thank you.
Thank you, Misha. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here at the opening of this event, which is organized within the framework of the ICEDA project. ICEDA project is a project aimed in increasing civic engagement in the digital agenda, and Metamorphosis is implementing this project in the Western Balkan with partners from the region. And the main idea, or let's say the main objectives of the project, is really to bring in a citizen perspective to the development of the digital agenda in the region and in each of the countries separately. The idea and the motivation for this project came from the Digital Agenda for the Western Balkan initiative from the European Commission, started in 2018, which brought together the government of the region, and they had specific objectives for the region. And one we have now, let's say, starting from July, we're seeing one of the results, and that is a roaming-free region. Nonetheless, from the perspective of civil society organization and from the partners in the region, for us it's very important, as I said at the beginning, that this entire digital agenda takes into account the needs, the priorities, and the challenges that ordinary people face when using digital technology. And this project is not about technology, it's more about the impact that technology do have in our lives and how really to benefit the most from what digital technology is bringing to everyone. And this actually is the idea of the project, and this is also the idea of the digital agenda for the Western Balkan. What is important is that the region do not have major challenges related to connectivity. We all have internet access, we have mobile phones and computers. We also do not have much more problems in terms of content available, but we are somehow behind when it comes to how the services that are developed for the citizens takes into account the priorities of the citizens and not only the priorities and the needs of the government or the businesses. This is also true when we speak about artificial intelligence, which is a very new topic and poses a lot of challenges not only to the governments of the region and the people of the region, but also worldwide. And for us, as a civil society organization, it is important that there is a strategic process, a consultation process, and even an effort to regulate the artificial intelligence deployment in the region that also in its center have human rights and human dignity. And that's why there must be a very concrete, let's say, regulatory framework and a legal and institutional environment that will prohibit unethical use of artificial intelligence. And when I say prohibit, I'm being very explicit, because it must be clear that if we deploy artificial intelligence and without having in mind the patterns, historical patterns of discrimination, we will just keep alive, we will just perpetuate those discriminatory practices. That's why it is again important that civil society organization, human rights organization, although they are not very familiar with the technology, bring in their perspective and make sure that the government and also the businesses who are deploying those AI solutions take into consideration human rights and make sure that there is no harm from the usage of AI in any sphere of our society. So artificial intelligence is a new thing for the region, and there are some initiatives here in Serbia also, but also in the region, but there is no, let's say, strategic and vision about where AI will be and what it will bring to everyone. That's why an event like this one, where civil society organization, representatives from the government, the academia, and the businesses are together discussing those challenges and are making sure that through a very meaningful consultation and dialogue, we will come to a solution that will not lead our society to, let's say, a dystopian society, but will really take the best from technology in a very responsible way, will prepare the citizens with all the skills, and also all the instruments to protect their human rights and take full benefit of digital technology and AI in particular. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone, greetings from Belgrade to all of you who are watching us online. My name is Philip and I'll be hosting today's discussion. Like a few more words about why we chose this topic today. I mean, like the thing is, computers are doing so many things for and instead of us. I mean, it's happening all the time when we use like different apps, like, I don't know, Google or Netflix or so many other things. And the trend of using those new technologies is also happening across the government. And it seems that these technologies can enhance a lot of public services that are provided by the government. Things are happening in the region. Serbia has national AI strategy. Other countries are also considering that. We already have a lot of AI and AI-like solutions tackling public problems in the region. So today we'll try to like go over them and discuss them. And also like on my way here, I had a discussion with a cab driver and I mentioned him the topic. And he was like, yeah, but like I had a problem with my tax and they couldn't solve it and they said it was a computer and who's responsible? I need to pay more. And it seems that like we don't have like any frameworks to how to resolve those type of problems that can emerge. So that's why it's super important for us to discuss all the consequences, all the potential misuses and problems, and try to connect because we have strong communities, tech communities, which in most cases aren't well connected with like legal professions and like students of, for example, Faculty of Political Sciences. So it's super important for us to like try to connect and see all the potential consequences and benefits. So yeah, today here with us we have Jelena from Serbian AI Society. We have Alexander Linz, also from Serbia, representing Data Science Serbia. We have Albert from Kosovo. We have Ersila from Albania. We have Dražen from Montenegro. And we have Costa, who is with us online from Macedonia. So before we start the discussion, I would suggest that we do like a round of introductions, like let's say 2 minutes max, where you could just tell more about yourself and your current role in the context of today's discussion. And I think we could like maybe start from the left. It's like the most straightforward way.
Hi everybody, I am Alberto Liu.
Yeah, microphone, sorry.
So I am Alberto Liu, today representing Global City Digital Kosovo from Kosovo. By profession I'm an engineer as well, and today I will be in from the business side and how the e-services and artificial intelligence algorithms are influencing the decision making. I'll try to share some of the experiences and also some of the research that we did together with my colleague, Mr. Arnur Halili, who is part of the team as well, that we did during the last 10 years. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this event. My name is Ercila. I work at Innovation Directory at the National Agency of Information Society in Albania, and I'm going to represent the digital transformation process that is changing significantly the way the Albanian government is developing its policies and strategic objectives. Thank you.
Okay, I have my own microphone. First of all, thank you, Philip, for inviting me. My name is Alexander Linz-Georgievich, and I'm the founder and managing director of Data Science Conference, which is one of the largest worldwide franchise dedicated to data science and AI. Beside that, I'm a board member of Data Science Serbia, a global and umbrella organization of everyone who is doing data science, AI, machine learning, data analytics, business analytics. Basically, it's connect professionals, organizations, academia, everyone in one place. We're still not having everyone, but I hope by the end of some next year we're going to have everybody under one umbrella. Last but not the least, I'm also a data scientist by vocation. I was working for the last 10 years as a data scientist as well, and also I'm one of the was one of the initiators of creating a Serbian AI strategy, and also was part of the working group that created action plan for the Serbian national AI strategy. So that's about me.
Hi everyone, I'm Jelena Kocic. I'm here representing Serbian AI Society, where I'm advisory board member. Also, I worked as a lead of machine learning in Bitgear company, and professionally I also finished a PhD at University of Belgrade in the topic of artificial intelligence and applications in autonomous vehicles. Here I'm very interesting to see how we all can connect and help each other, and as a community as a whole.
Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Dražen Vujović. I come from Montenegro. I'm the head of the government's PR department, and also an editor of the COVID response website, which is in charge of communicating new measures and epidemiology prevention things related, of course, to COVID-19. So we are trying to implement a lot of new things into this website in order to make the most of it and help people of Montenegro understand how to react, what to do, and what measures to take in order to prevent the spread of the disease. Besides that, of course, we are always interested in collaborating with NGOs and with private sector in order to make some sort of collaboration and finally and eventually improve our services in a way that is more practical and useful for the citizens or the people we work for.
Yep, thank you. Since Jelena, you're like PhD in artificial intelligence, and like probably people who follow us like, okay, but what is that? Maybe it makes sense for you to like just briefly try to describe what it is, like in say a few minutes before we like.
Thank you. So artificial intelligence is an area of software engineering that's with the aim to help humans better do their tasks by or automatization or to do them automatically, autonomously. So there are two major branches. One will be expert systems, and the expert systems are the systems that was developed in the past in the first half of last century, and today what is the most important and what's the science and the industry both together working on are machine learning methods. And machine learning present the learning from data. So on contrary to regular programming, where we have a set of rules and set those rules to any given input to give some output, here we have data that we know from data have some system or some environment that behaves, and make algorithms. So once we have very new data never seen before, the algorithm itself will say what's the outcome. So the idea of machine learning is learning from data, and that's why this is also important, like having good data sets in order to make some problems solved. Problems that can be solved are very various, from some some systems that can be helped to current way how the people are making some decisions to help make better decisions, to do not make mistakes, to completely new systems like autonomous vehicles, for example, or some smart IoT systems or computer vision in many different ways. So there is a lot of different domains where artificial intelligence in general can help.
Maybe some examples of our daily lives,
the very basic example is spam filter, for example. As you know, in your emails there can be spam. So in the past, all those emails that are spam was labeled as spam, and those who are not are labeled as normal. And now all mail services introduce these algorithms into the mail service database and can set which email is spam or not spam. So now it's all done automatically, help to machine learning. But also, for example, that we have now detection of people. So we have face recognition, for example, emotion recognition. We can detect the ages of someone, and the most recent COVID pandemic situation. So in some cities, the algorithms for social distancing was implemented. So the cameras on the streets can see if people are close together or not in the very important areas where it's important that people are not close. But also, for example, machine learning is also very important for data science, data science and learning from a lot of data. And now COVID is in my mind. So, for example, when we have COVID tests, we can say from the results if some person do have a positive or negative result, and that's all also are implemented using machine learning algorithms, where the decision of the final outcome is defined by the algorithms.
Okay, thank you. Also, Serbia is, I think, the only country in the region that has national AI strategy. And Alexander, you were part of creating that document. So, maybe if you can just share that experience with the audience.
Yes,
why it's important, what's in it, etc.
Yeah. Well, basically, there is a three main difference, and I was speaking about that yesterday, and I would gladly like to, let's say, evangelize about being this. First and for all is strategic orientation, because there is more than 50 countries right now covering more than 90% of worldwide GDP that has AI strategy. With doing so, the government and the whole, let's say, whole community ecosystem is dedicating itself that would like a strategic way to develop their AI capabilities. Being said that, most of the time we forget that before AI strategy, we also need to think about the data centers. In our strategy, we included that as a part of AI strategy, so we didn't build two different strategy, which was very important part, because without data, you cannot talk about developing any kind of analytical, any kind of data science algorithms or machine learning or AI products, because data is behind all of them. Basically, and that's the third part. But the second part is also when you develop AI strategy, you create a sustainable platform for R&D. For example, one of the parts of our strategy was creation of AI Center for Excellence, basically National AI Center for Excellence, and the first director was the leader of the working group, Filip Panjevic, and I think that it started, but it will start even better to do so. And basically, this is how the companies, the community, and academia know there is a place where they can join together and work on AI solutions. We have an example of this kind of center at Slovenia, for example, Jožef Stefan Institute, and it's doing a lot of great stuff. So far in Jožef Stefan, I think they have more than 1,000 people working there, and 300 of them are working on data science, AI, and ML development algorithms. So basically, that's very important, especially if you would like to do some NLP for Serbian language, for example. And company.
What is NLP?
NLP is natural language processing. Basically, thank you for that question. Basically, NLP is when you have some text, let's say, and you need to get some kind of analysis behind the text. For example, when you're writing it at Facebook, you can do analysis to see how people are reacting to something you're writing. So basically, it has a tons of variation. For example, this example in the marketing, in the, let's say, seeing for also you can use it for sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis can be very important for the, let's say, when you have some emergency situations such as earthquake, you can do monitoring through the social media, and then there is where NLP, natural language processing, is very important. And last but not the least is one thing that I'm basically doing like a profit. That is differentiation from software. Basically, and that's the attitude of the whole data science Serbia as well, that software development and data science are two different parts of the IT as well. Like there is a difference between physics and chemistry, for example, natural science. When you want to develop something, you cannot do one without the second one. But the thing is, you need to know that there is a software differentiation. It's totally different thing how you develop a project in a software development environment, and if you develop some project that is data analytics, I don't know, data science, if there is a project machine learning, AI, that total different methodology need to be used. There is a total different approach, and in the end, you can develop software development without the data, and without the data, you cannot develop the second one. So basically, and
put that in context, like all of these solutions need and require a lot of data. Then first priority of the strategy is to actually have that data.
It's fourth.
What exactly does it mean?
Basically, if you look down, it's a fourth, but not the first one. But without the data, we cannot talk about. Okay, we can. There is a new level how to create synthetic data, etc. But that's something that I think is too much advanced for the let's say for the government part, for usage, etc. You need to have a real experts in that part to have a control about that. But yes, when we are talking about the data science, analytics, AI, you need to have a data, and for AI you need to have a lot of data basically, and you need to have not only just to put data somewhere. You need to have I don't know, some proven record time frames. It depends on the problem. Some of the problems are time frames, some of them are not time framed. For example, let's say from this part of technology, one of the most challenging problems are in the betting industry, because most of the things are not time framed, because you can make a bet now for 10 months ahead, and it can change through the time. So basically, it's very interesting to develop a solution for that. Bojan Sovlja from CloudWalker is one of the biggest experts worldwide who is doing that. He's doing with with betting companies from UK, for example, Switzerland, etc. But like I said, for sure, you need a lot of data. You need to know how to govern the data, who is responsible for data ingestion, for ETL, for data engineering. Most of the time people forget about part data engineering, which is very, very important. Without a good data engineering, you cannot do anything else. And why is also important? Because when we're talking about machine learning and AI, why is data important? Why is different for the from the software developer? In my case, I totally believe that, because when everything is doing right, that's okay. But if you're not getting the results you would like to get, you need to go deep dive. And when you're going deep dive, you need to understand statistics. And that's why I think that Jelena, as a PhD, why the AI people need to have PhD, because statistics is very, very important part, basically. And if you want to be 100%, statistical programming can be maybe the correct term, for everything I'm saying about now.
Yeah, but if I can summarize, and try, for the government perspective, you need to have all the information about what's happening all around in a digital form, because computers, they can only work with digital form data, right? And then by doing that, like you allow, you can build, like you can automate a lot of government e-services, but you can also provide data that like entrepreneurs can use to build businesses. So like, that's like why it's like one of the biggest priority. Like that way you allow innovation within the government, which leads to better and more efficient citizens, and also like unlocks the economic potential that is great for...
An important part, just one sentence, that Serbia has 2 data centers, one in Belgrade, one in Kragujevac, and that's very important, and that's providing infrastructure for what we are saying, because basically we could not have a center for AI without good data centers.
Thank you.
Recently that people create huge amounts of data on a daily basis, but most of it goes to waste because we just fail to use it. You know, we don't use it properly. So you were mentioning 2 data centers in Serbia, that you have them in Kragujevac and Belgrade. So what are your recommendations in that regards? Is everyone supposed to focus on a specific area of work, business, or data management from the government perspective, from business perspective, because there's too much of the data floating around? What are some, in your opinion, first things that we should focus on, not only from the government perspective, but also from the business perspective, NGO perspective, everything, also COVID, all the things that are very, very important at the moment, but how do we filter out what's necessary and what's very important? What's not important?
That's an excellent question, basically, and I would like to answer that.
Just be short, please.
Yeah, short. First of all, yes, you need to do, the approach is next, and its best approach is to do small victories, to create small victories, because basically, like, not either one serious organization will try to take right now huge transformational projects such as data centers, etc., without proven knowledge that somebody can deliver that. So basically, you should use data that you have already to build some small victories and to try to build research in parallel. So basically, it's not one or the other. You need to do in parallel, and basically that's why community, academia, government, and business together working as a one, like as a key stakeholder doing all of the parts. For example, business can help a lot with explanation what is needed to be done in terms of data centers, etc. Community can say what kind of data, how it should be governed, etc. Government maybe can do the follow-up with the part of the enabling that to become open data, like Philip said, that it can be used for the businesses, and the end academia can do a lot of research in implementing new stuff, such as, I don't know, try to, for example, COVID research. Okay, we now have the people who are doing vaccination. Let's say if we can implement machine learning models that can recommend us how we can approach different group of people to different, for example, different social media and media types, so we can boost the vaccination even better, for example. And that can be done with academia and community together, but academia is, let's say, center of, let's say, doing a theoretical part, putting it in knowledge. So basically, if you're asking me, I think that the question is doing everything, and it needs to be governed by one part, and that's what I'm advocating for chief digital officer in part of the government, because that's the one person who should be in charge of creating the sustainable environment for that.
Thank you for your question and for the answer. Is Costa here with us? I mean, can we, because yesterday we learned that, we learned that you're flying to Israel to learn about their strategy. So like, if you can share some of the experiences in North Macedonia regarding the AI strategy, and what have you been doing, and what are the plans, maybe some experiences?
Thank you first so much for inviting me to be part of this event. So sorry I wasn't able to be there live in person, but I really like what everyone said on the panel. When it comes to the Republic of North Macedonia, we are in a very early stages when it comes to artificial intelligence. I am the director of the Fund for Innovation and Technology Development. It's the leading government agency investing in innovation and technology. We've invested over 75 million in the past 5 years. And in the last year, we are heavily working together with the government, the local international experts on regulative change, but also we are creating a strategy for positioning North Macedonia as a regional startup hub. The idea for artificial intelligence actually came from the companies which are present in our portfolio. As a fund, we invest in different types of companies. As I said, we have 559 companies, and 6 of those work in artificial intelligence. One of the negative things that we are facing at this moment is that the government does not have a clear digital strategy. I come from the private sector, so I'm not interested into those kind of strategies that take 5 years to create. Then you create an action plan, and then the government changes, and then you create a new strategy. So what we are doing right now, we are on a fast forward phase. 2 months ago, the government has appointed the Fund for Innovation to create the working group for the national AI strategy. So we are now in the final process of creating the working group, and our goal is in the next 6 to 12 months to create a practical artificial intelligence strategy, mainly focusing on the government services. As you know, AI is becoming increasingly important in government, especially in our countries where we do not have enough employees in administration. Those that are working in administration are not properly trained. You still have, I don't know how it is in other parts of the region, but in North Macedonia, you still have to physically go somewhere to get a document, to wait in line. It's very bureaucratical. So what we want to do with the strategy and with the efforts is offer citizens quicker access to data. They can submit the complaints online, form submissions. It saves time. It can give assistance in native language. And most importantly, it gets rid of the traditional way of communication, through phone calls and emails. So hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll have a clear path when it comes to the national AI strategy. But in the meantime, we are working on a pilot project which we are launching in 2 weeks. And the pilot project is Digital AI Assistant for the programs for state aid of the government of Republic of North Macedonia. What does this mean? Currently in the government, we have 3 programs that are focusing on aid for national and international investors. They are smaller departments, smaller government bodies, so it enables us to test a digital AI assistant for everyone that is using this state aid. So basically, the whole idea is through the digital AI assistant is to submit forms to see as a company which aid is available to you, to see updates on your aid and things like that. Now, this is the initial phase of the first digital assistant, AI assistant. And once we have the results, our plan is to create a digital AI assistant in the Ministry of Social Affairs, with focusing on identifying fraudulent benefits. In healthcare, focusing on tracking diseases and disease spreads. In the Ministry of Interior, on predicting crimes and recommending optimal police presence. In the Ministry of Education, focusing on personalized education. And our goal is in the next 2 years to have customer service chatbots in all government administrations offices. So maybe we are late in the game, but we have a very ambitious plan. Also, as the director of the Fund for Innovation, at the fund itself, we are creating a special portfolio on investment in artificial intelligence. Our goal is to increase the investment 200% in companies that are dealing with artificial intelligence. And also, in August, we are launching our investment fund. So through the investment fund, also one of the main categories of companies that we are looking to fund is they should be focusing on obviously digitalization technology, but also artificial intelligence. So I think, to sum this up, the region may be late in the game, but what is really important is that we work collectively together, share expertise. At the end of the day, the region is small, so we need to have a bigger regional cooperation and really create this transformation, which is much needed, because my biggest fear as someone coming from North Macedonia and from this region is, when this COVID madness is over, what will be the unique story of our region? Because it's about time that we create a modern, unique story. And I strongly believe that technology and digitalization is that unique story that we can for surely create.
Thank you. What about other countries in the region regarding, things like, if not like AI strategy itself, but any ideas or maybe practices of automated decision making within the government which help public?
Well, as I said before, I work at the National Agency of Information Society, which has become one of the key institutions on the country developing and implementing ICT projects, e-services, supporting innovation and adding value through digital transformation. Our strategic objective to the digital revolution in Albania is providing high quality, secure and management infrastructure for the provision of government IT systems and electronic services, improving and facilitating as much as possible the life of citizens, business and public sector. Our strategic goal in the Albanian government digital agenda is promoting high productivity tasks based on a combination of the technologies as artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and blockchains, which we use to the systems that require security, as in health and property sector. Also, our big achievement is the e-Albania government portal, which is a national portal operating as a one-stop single access point to citizens 24/7. The portal provides about 1,207 services, which is translated to 95% of all services that the Albanian government provide. And all this system is connected to the government interoperability platform, allowing the interaction between 55 state databases. And the government interoperability platform enables that 63% of all applications are pre-filled automatically, and by the interaction and the exchange of the data between these databases in real time. And the government of Albania is currently undergoing one of the most important transformation process in its history of public service digitalization. Actually, from January 1, 2020, a new process of public services began, providing the public services application to citizen and business exclusively online. Also, we have provided legal electronic documents, about 119 types of documents with electronic signature, and also 49 types of documents with electronic seals. For example, electronic debit certificate, customs authorization, e-permits, and other documents. Also, we have provided a dedicated system, e-sign document circulation system, that has been created for the interaction of all institutions, with the aim of exchanging all enclosed documents of the citizens, so the citizen doesn't have to provide the documents itself, but by the institution. Also, some of our future plans based on artificial intelligence are the improvement of systems, improvement of the infrastructure, digitalization of physical archives is our main object for the future, paperless government, and accessible information and engagement environment to people with disabilities in the government portal and official websites. Well, that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What about Kosovo?
Yes.
I will focus my speech in 2 or 3 aspects. First of all, we have been doing researches since 2009 in regards to the use of internet and other ICT services by the businesses in Kosovo. And what is a good thing, which I think is in the whole region, is the fact that we have a high internet penetration. As a number, officially in Kosovo, 90% of the population is connected to the internet. In numbers is approximately 1.6 million. And when coming from a business perspective and seeing the government and also the strategies, they have started since 2008 or 2009 to create 5-year strategies in regards to e-government services. And there are a lot of services which are created. From business perspective, it has made our life easier during the last couple of years, especially the tax office and the declaration in regards to the state portal. It is worth to mention that when we did a research in 2011, and we repeated the same research with the same entities as a time series research approach with the same companies in 2019. We saw an increase of the same businesses using more and more internet in regards to B2B and B2C, especially by enhancing the e-commerce approach and using e-services in regards to their business process. In regards to ourselves as a company, we have been dealing with different processes, and I will mention two of them. We are now currently building a fraud management system which uses some machine learning algorithms in regard to the fraud detection in e-commerce web pages. And also we are in the final phases of testing a tool, a Chrome extension, which is a tool to analyze and find fake portals, first of all in Kosovo, by using some variables, and afterwards we are planning to expand it in the whole region as a Chrome extension. So this is in short where we are.
Okay, thank you. Montenegro?
Yes, thank you all for giving us such a wonderful introduction to your actions and services. I would also like to mention that Montenegro also has a Ministry of Digital Affairs, so they are implementing quite a few projects related to the improvement and digitalization of public services. What is important to mention here, and I actually have a question for all of you, for all of your countries. What are your experiences in that regard? Because as much as I see that, although I'm not coming directly from the ministry, but from the government's offices, I noticed that a lot of real people, and not just citizens who use those services, but also people who are behind it, who work for those services. So in municipalities, you know, like there is not enough IT literacy among people. So even I think that the technology is growing and developing exponentially, but people are not really able to cope with it and to embrace it to the fullest extent on time. And the technology keeps changing and improving, but people are not able to digest it, I think, properly. Are you facing the same problem as people in Montenegro? That's basically my question, because I'm really interested in hearing about it.
Okay, well, I'm coming from a technological world, so I'm not seeing that in my environment, but I can see that in my parents and grandparents. So I think that for the older generation, I think that there is, at some extent, they need to embrace that, as mobile phones now. Even grandparents have a mobile phone and communicate with the grandsons and daughters during that way. So if we are speaking about e-government systems, for example, if we need a new passport, there is an online form that someone need to fill in. So they are calling their kids to help them out, but they know that's the better way. They fill in that form, then go and wait in a line. So I think that at some point that older people, older generation will accept that. On the other way, I truly believe that education is the key of the success of everything, so of our country, of our region, etc. So I do believe that helping universities to make newer curriculum and to help to kids to go to, even in the primary school, learn about technology is the right way how to solve these problems and how to keep on with the technology that is growing on everyday scale. So I think that we do have some good improvements here in Serbia. For example, my kids are in early school, so like first and second grade, and so there are PowerPoint presentations, and now they really like to see PowerPoint presentation and to write down some text that's written there, than to read from the handwritten table, for example. And also we have IT courses in the schools very early. So I do believe that's the case.
Maybe just to add to this, I totally agree with Jelena, and thank you for this sharing. For example, what you can do And what we are trying to do, basically, I was talking about that, is a bit more transforming academy also into being, but not only academy as a state academy. You have companies who are doing education. So when I'm talking about academy, I'm talking about educational companies and organizations that provide the basics stuff, the basic education for the people working in the government. Basically, when we are talking about, and that's not only for the government, because government see all the time that business are much more flexible and let's say in front of them, but also businesses have a problem. They took new technology, but they don't have people who know how to work on them. And basically, you can pay the technology 500,000, 5 million euros, but if you don't have people who will use that, you will need to take experts, and that will cost you 10 times more to implement, which is not sustainable, to be honest. And this being said, that I think that through this smaller curriculums that are basically part of, and it need to be part of the working hours for the people. So basically, one part it need to be taken into, because everything is changing. We need to also to adapt a different part of actually what is working place inside of the government people, and to take at least one day in 2 weeks for their education, maybe 2 days, let's say program in 2 days can be very, very influential. It's a shorter program. We can talk about it, even how you can manage this program. But I think that strategically, government need to understand that need to give more resource and money into, and that's not that big amount of money, to be honest, but to give some money to education of people who are going to use the systems. In other way, it will not work, or people will not be satisfied, and you will have this situation that the tax is doing something wrong, and people will not know who to contact to correct this. They just say, okay, just pay. And that's a bad user experience. Then, like that, it will totally be the trust in the governance and system will totally be going down, and people will stop using it. And that's not what we want to do.
And, exactly, I agree with your point. We all need to educate ourselves continuously, but I think it's a long-term process, both for the citizens and for the government officials. And also, that's why we are trying to simplify everything we do in terms of e-services. We mentioned yesterday that our COVID response website has been accepting applications for vaccination, and then we, based on your experiences in Serbia, that user experience was not as good as it was supposed to be. We totally simplified the process, and we only required people to put in their personal ID numbers, which is only a single step. But then we faced also another issue, that we added reCAPTCHA, just to confirm that you are a human being, and a lot of people were very confused because of it, because they didn't know that they were only supposed to click this field, and to check it. So it really requires continuous explanations and a really simple but very informative approach from our side. I think that's the biggest challenge in this entire process.
If I can add a few words to on the topic of public education, I don't know, there's a very great documentary on Netflix called Coded Bias, and I think that media platforms, existing media platforms, in case of Serbia, like RTS or the public broadcast or other mainstream media, should create content and I don't know, share content that it's because for example that documentary talks about biased algorithms and how they ruin people's lives from the perspective of those people, and if you watch it, you all of a sudden understand in just 1 hour and a half, you understand how the technology works, what are the harms, and what are the bad consequences. And I believe that those things should yet again be done in some sort of cooperation between I don't know, if there's a ministry responsible for a certain field, it should proactively, I believe, I don't know, maybe even initiate doing documentaries and something that is being watched by millions of people, and also basically just demystifying the new world we're in, because there's no turning back and things are going really fast. And for example, in Serbia we have a recent case of facial recognition done by Chinese Huawei, and no one knows, there's a camera and you can recognize your face, and no one knows what are the potential consequences for I don't know, political persecution or all the other stuff, and there's no one to ask the regulators or to initiate all of that. So I think that's a very important thing to do, and also like inspiring people who are like doing law and sociology and some other stuff to like think about those issues, because they are much more relevant than like, I don't know, things from 17th century, and there's also money in it. So like I believe that like incentivizing people who are from humanities world to think about those issues is super important for all of us, and it's great for their careers as well. So I think that should also be part of like national AI strategies, like basically engaging different stakeholders. And yeah, maybe a few things about like education and like public education, education of civil servants, and
yeah. In regard to technology uses, there is always a trend of resistance to change among all people. What we saw and what we are facing in our daily life is the fact that in Kosovo, the average population is less than 35 years old, which brings the idea of, since the penetration is quite high, the idea of internet services and internet usage among every service which is offered by the state. In regards to the education, public and private education, I think everywhere in the world it catched the system unprepared, the COVID itself. Kosovo was in the same level as well. They were trying, and the state tried different approaches and different scenarios on how to proceed with education, and especially now that they are enhancing the curriculums by adding courses in relation to programming at early stages of primary school, which creates a good opportunity for children and also for the adults to change. So in total, we see that the lack of expertise of some old people, but mainly people have children who are taking care of applications for different documents at state level, but who doesn't have these people to help them. They are facing issues, either with they don't have device, or they have to go to wait on the queue at the state level.
I think one of the biggest challenges in implementing algorithm or artificial intelligence in the public sector and government development policies is improving the life of citizens and the quality of public services in the condition where the economy of Albania is with a high dynamism development. The advancement in the technology services through the inclusion of AI is an important element of digitalization, which will provide a great support. Also in the condition where the average, when Albania has an average young population, the development of AI as part of digitalization will find the full support on this segment of the young people. The automation that AI will bring to public services will also increase public transparency towards services, and in turn will significantly reduce not only the delivery time of the services but also the cost of providing them. And I briefly would like to share some of the concrete examples that, for example, Albania, the portal Albania has changed so far the life of citizen, is eliminating face-to-face contact between citizen and administration official, and reducing the number of citizens waiting in line at the counters, and so far our persistence on changing the mindset of citizens to trust technology. Thank you.
I don't need that. Yeah, Costa, one question for you, since you come from like private sector, which is much faster. So, like, as in, like, I believe that, like, in order, like, for all the things you mentioned to work, you need to like educate many decision makers who are like mid-level and like other bureaucrats. So like my question is like, what's your experience so far in like spreading like a certain mindset even, and spreading knowledge and skills within people who are used to work in different way, and like basically also inspiring this sort of like lifelong like learning is it like they need to like improve, and like do you have any ideas or like strategies even for like educating public servants on things that are digital, so to say?
Yeah. This is actually a great discussion. I really like the comments of the colleagues that are in the audience. I think what is really important, this whole process of digitalization and AI, it's not a question whether I'm going to do it. Are we ready? Do we have enough people that understand it? We have to do it. We don't have other option. How quick we do it, it depends on us. However, I think what is really important to ensure quick digitalization and implementation of all digital trends, including artificial intelligence. And I'm happy that we are currently working on many of them. When it comes to education, we realize the education system in our country is not where it needs to be. So if we are looking for law changes and changing of textbooks and new courses criteria, this will take a lot of time. Of course, we are working on it, but we also have to think of quick solutions. And in order to educate people on the benefits, but also on digital tools. So at the fund, what we did 3 months ago, together with Samos Education, is one of the leading private company when it comes to non-formal education and training people for digital skills, is we launched a free course on AI basics for 2,000 students or for 2,000 young people. So we had over 2,000 young people from 18 years to 29 years attending a 5-day course on the basics of artificial intelligence. Also, what we are doing as the government, we are working a lot with the non-formal education sector, because what is happening right now, most of the new workforce, the digital workforce, is not produced by the universities, but is produced by these non-formal education companies that offer 6 months, 12 months, 8 months courses on different digital skills. So we are working closely on them so they can develop courses and educational activities focusing on digital skills, including AI. And the government has also excluded tax for any digital trainings for private companies. So before there was a 18% tax on if you attend any trainings as an employee. Now this tax doesn't exist anymore. The second thing is when it comes to making sure that we have an effective digitalization process, is how IT is structured within the government. I don't know how it is in the other countries, but the problem that we are facing in North Macedonia is that the salaries in the administration are capped. So there is a certain amount that you can give to a chief technology officer or to an IT person. And these salaries are like probably 200, 300% lower on the current market salaries. So we don't actually have digital people with IT skills interested in working with the government. So what we are doing right now with the Chamber of Commerce focusing on the IT technology is developing a model where the government outsources the main IT parts within the government. So it includes, so it will actually give access to the government to high skilled workforce that can implement these trends. I don't know how it is in other countries, but I would like to hear about the problem of getting the right people with the right IT skills to work for the government. I think this is the biggest issue when it comes to digitalization. Yeah, we'll have a strategy, we'll have action plan, but the question is whether do we have the right people to implement this kind of strategy. And the third thing that is very, very important, and I mentioned it, and I also mentioned it before, we as a government need to inspire people to inspire the private sector to focus on digitalization and to focus on artificial intelligence. That's why the fund, we are creating a special portfolio on artificial intelligence. That's why our investment fund will focus specifically on artificial intelligence. So we have to create an atmosphere where companies are motivated to create this kind of solution, but at the same time, the government gives them incentives for this kind of solutions. So in North Macedonia, in October, we are launching our three-year plan of which is called the zero personal tax for everyone working in IT. So basically, this year we are starting with 5% personal tax. Next year we are deducting it to 3%, and by 2023 we are aiming for 0% personal tax for the IT industry. So by creating the right model of quick education, working with both with the formal and informal education sector, but at the same time creating a model where the government has the right IT people that can develop this kind of strategy, and most importantly, by giving incentives for people to focus on digital skills and including artificial intelligence. I think even though we are late in the game, with the right step-by-step approach, I think that in the next 2 to 3 years we can really be on pair with the leading countries. What is an interesting fact for me is that Estonia started the digitalization process in 1997. So of course they will be more advanced than anyone in the region. But what is really important is that we shouldn't see ourselves as sometimes I feel that we see ourselves as lesser than other countries in Europe. But I think at this point, we don't have excuses to ensure that we have the right digital skills, we have digital governments, and really citizens have quick access to the information, which is key, I think, for when it comes to developing one digital society.
I think one of the good things and good trends is that actually time is accelerating. So like, I don't know, 3 years now are like 20 years, like 20 years ago. So like that means that like maybe we can be faster. You mentioned like collaboration with like private companies, and in here Serbia, Jelena has personally worked on 2 examples of using some of these technologies in 2 very different contexts for solving 2 very different problems. So Jelena, if you can share like that experience.
Yes, of course. So I work for Bitgear company, that's private company in Serbia, and that is SME, small and medium-sized company. And we do not have project directly with the government, but we do collaborate with the companies owned by government, like Telekom Serbia or Cargo Serbia. So one of examples of the products that we developed is manhole monitoring system. That's a small device, it's IoT device, Internet of Things, that have a lot of smart sensors on itself, and it mounts, for example, for Telekom Serbia, it mounts in manholes that for the cables for the internet and all telecommunication traffic. So the main goal of this project was to stop stealing those Bakar wires. Copper wires, yeah. So that was a huge problem financially for the Telekom Serbia. So we helped them solve that. So we developed the product, and where is artificial intelligence there? So we have a smart device that are continuously send information to the database that we also developed, and from that database with all information from the sensors, and the sensors are like they are a proximity sensor that will detect if person is in front of the device, or accelerator that will detect if someone is shaking the device and trying to steal something, and some other sensors as well. And we can detect if the manhole lid is open or not by seeing those information from the sensor and putting all those inputs into the algorithm, and then algorithm itself will say, for example, someone is in the manhole or someone is trying to crush the sensor, etc. And this benefits a lot to the company because now the stealing of those properties much less than before, and very quickly police, it also can be connected to the police, and they can find those people. Another example is for Cargo Serbia, where we have similar devices, but they are protecting the cargo load on the trains. So there is a lot of trains from Asia to Western Europe coming through Serbia, and there are some intruders and also, migrants or sometimes coming in, and that was very important for the cargo trains, so that everything is impact. So those sensors are also sending information, and we are detecting them. And also we have a lot of computer vision projects where it's my personal expertise in. So we are making something like a smart parking, where we have cameras in the parking and having a white and black list of the visitors who can enter or not, and also connected to the very, very big system. We're also having the information about all the SWOTs, etc. So there are a lot of applications that can be done. And what I think is important now when we say is about private companies and government companies or government itself, is that when we have here a small company, sometimes it's very hard to find enough investment for the product itself. So there are two ways, or someone is putting their personal, personal wealth there and trying to build something from the scratch, or trying to find international investors, but those investors will take part of the company as they own. Or what we did is the cooperation with those huge companies owned by government that do have resources and do have real problems that small companies as our fast technology company can solve. So that's something like a previous speaker was speaking about. So these kind of problems can be solved by small expert companies, and there will be enough resources to make these projects work, and then everybody will be happy. Yeah,
it's a great example of collaboration. Like everyone has its own side, and like in the end, the citizens have a better parking as a consequence. Alexander, you were here also yesterday, so like maybe like because we're shifting to like I don't know use of these technologies within some services, like maybe you can mention some examples you shared about like I don't know Estonia voice assistance. We heard that like North Macedonia is also like planning to implement something like that.
Yeah, basically, I was talking yesterday about, and I think that one thing that all the governments, wherever you are, can implement is virtual chatbots with the government. Basically, and there is a different layers and different types of the virtual chatbots that can be implemented. For example, Australian National Tech Service implemented their chatbot, which is not Alexa but Alex, and they started doing that in 2016. It's this decision tree based, but basically it's to put it, it's EFL system, basically not EFL system, but for somebody who is not technical, that's something that is the most, let's say, easiest way to explain decision tree based system so far I have learned to explain to the people. And basically it can answer to up to 500 questions, and only in the first year it solved more than 1.5 million inquiries on first contact. Basically that means that the people who are working are not overloaded basically with the job, and they can work more. For example, the next step which can be done after that, because you have a data you can learn from, and that's why the database that Jelena was talking about is very, very important. People think that this is okay, just a small part of the project. No, it's the most crucial one, because when you have a good data, you don't have to use a lot of your time to digest the data and to understand what is happening. So what Singapore did was Ask Jamie virtual assistant. Basically they started that in 2004 to develop in 2014, and basically it's NLP, natural language processing. It's in behind, and it is learning how to communicate with the citizens. And basically it learned if there is more complex system, it can just switch to the operator, and this is something that is more advanced, and it can be implemented on more than one agency. That's something possibly that will do for North Macedonia, and it's right now implemented, if I correctly remember, in 70 different agencies. So basically, it's something that is worthwhile, because you can have you can give to your citizens, you can give much better and in real time much faster response. And there is some complex, you can go up to the just people to give you back results, to talk with you as the operator. Last but not the least is Estonian. And basically, Estonia would like, I don't know how how will this be sound in the Balkan, but invisible government. I think that our governments like to be very visible, but like I said,
very invisible.
Like
very invisible, because then they can.
No, visible. You need to be in the newspapers. But the thing is, like invisible government in terms not like to be totally invisible, but to have like people who can communicate. Basically, what they are doing, they are creating conversational chatbot, which is basically a Siri, Alexa-like, but only for Estonia. And they have proven record that they have created a lot of things for the e-government, etc. So I believe they are still working on. They still didn't develop, because this is something that is very transformational. But when they do this, this can be basically the end game for these services, the communication of government between government and citizens, because it can give much faster, and you need much less people doing communication. They can focus on some other things they're doing instead of just communicating with the citizen directly. You can communicate in different ways. But solving problems, issues, somebody has a question, I don't know, they can use this for the registering newborns. For example, you don't have to go after your child is born to 20 or 30 different agencies just to everything be as it should be by the law. Basically, everything is done by one click because the baby is born. You can take everything. You just need to get all of the assistance from the AI who will do that instead of you. So basically, it's some kind of AI assistant as well. So, like I said, this is some of the examples. For example, also Cincinnati is using a fire department. So to let's say they have some months in the year where there is too much fires. Basically, it can also be applied, for example, in Montenegro. So you can just sometimes you need to prioritize what should be the first one. And to stop the cascades, for example, they're using that inside of Cincinnati. Also, there is earthquakes, for example, in Croatia. Potres.ai was developed by InfoBeep, so that people can communicate very fastly through the voice to the messaging system. What should they do? Where should they go? Especially after the Zagreb and the rest of the earthquakes, they developed this. Andrea AI as well. So basically, there's a tons of explanation how you can use this messaging system, virtual chatbots, and for example, also in healthcare, you can do planning, welfare planning. So there is a lot of explanation. I will not.
Yeah, if I can just like add one point, because like when someone says in like all the like visual representations of AI are like very like I don't know machine-like and boring and like I don't know like silver, but like actually it's very humane, and I think that's a very interesting aspect. So for example, like this conversational AI. So imagine like a blind person who can't walk. It's like very hard to do. Like can't read, but like imagine if that person could communicate just via voice and can get like all the documents it needs like just by talking with someone, or like even the like one of the great examples, I think it's very early on, but like people have mental health issues and like they don't have enough money to afford basically like a therapist because it's expensive even in Serbia. But like people are starting to building like those artificial beings which act as like angels in a way. So I think that's like very important for us to like point out to that narrative as well, because it's not like I mean it's very optimistic. It can be a very optimistic future as well, but on the other hand, and we can I think try to discuss that as well, like this like dystopian alternative, because like AI basically fuels like surveillance state on like levels that are like, you know, unseen basically. So like I don't know if you go to China, I mean nothing against China per se, but like they have like a very totalitarian like use of AI, and it's very dangerous because like basically if you have like data about like all of your citizens in a digital form, and you can basically grade them in the ways you perceive it's right, and they actually do it with like they have this social scoring system which basically tracks who you're hanging out with, who you communicate with, what you buy, because everything is connected, and then based on that they basically nudge you, but like in a literal way. For example, like you cannot travel, you have a travel ban as a consequence because like, you know, you're hanging out with a person who has -5, and that -5, you know, you're not good for society. And like all those things are actually possible using like different AI technologies, and I think it's very important to be aware of like all the things that could happen. I mean, it's like a different culture, but like still like people need to be aware that like as like you're on YouTube and like you're in a loop and you never get out of it, it's like algorithms, they know you better than you know yourself. So that's why it's also important for people to you know, be aware of that. And like to the question that I got in the cab, like if the system isn't working, who is responsible? And like that's a very important question. And the question for all of you actually is like, first of all, like, is anyone thinking about that in your government? Like, is there anyone like working on it? Are there any laws, any procedures? And like also the transparency thing, because like why it's important in these things, because if the algorithms are transparent and other computer scientists or community members can test it, that means that they can like even save lives as a consequence, because some random mistake, which isn't, it's like super important for these things to be transparent, much more than like even other. So like that's the like open question for all of you.
All of us here agree that as a region we are a bit late in comparison to all those countries that were presented yesterday, including Estonia and more far away countries. There are a lot of, I'll go from the other level, like from a person who has a child or from a person who uses different tools in order to push forward his child. Recently I have seen, like in one of the communication tools, which is Teams, I have seen that they have created an AI approach in regards to the reading and speeching. Like you open the camera, teacher gives you a speech, you read that speech, and based on the your pronunciation and what you said, what you are saying, it brings the results on where you have to improve yourself. So these are some of the things that can be used free of charge, especially if we are using this type of technologies, and which may have impact in our lives, and also the cultural barrier and the cultural change in regards to the usage of the systems.
Okay.
Well, Albanian government is creating and collecting large amount of data through its day-to-day activities, such as management of pensions, compensation and payment, tax collection, national health system, and issuance of electronic signed official documents. Some of the main areas in which the use of AI will have a potential benefits and significant development in government electronic. We are, for example, open and transparent governments for the public, or analysis of the citizens' perceptions, citizen segmentation for service classification, economic analysis, tax administration, or cyber security.
Yeah, like maybe you like some experience from the working group. I mean, I think that like it's in Amsterdam and Brussels. I mean, they're required by law now. Like, if the city uses AI for anything, they're required to make it public in a way, like, as you need to like know the name of your official. So I think that, yeah, are there like initiatives of that sort here?
Well, to be honest, you're talking about something that's called ethical design, to be honest, like about how we are using ethical AI, which is a very important topic. And that's one of the main, let's say, tracks on every conference we are organizing, because we truly do believe it's not only about giving back to the, let's say, business what they want, but also what society needs in the events like this. I truly do believe that there is a two-layer issues here. First one is understanding why is this important, and the second one is the understanding why this is needed. Like, basically, this is two different issues. First one is it can be solvable with the part to understand, to explain to the people, and of course, technological is the third part, because sometimes you need a lot of different technologies behind it, so you make it possible, and to create that as open data. And there is a data privacy issues, etc. Sometimes you cannot open the data, but in the end, like I said, I truly do believe that this is something that not only the Balkan states, but also as well, okay, you can have that in the Netherlands, but basically what is the use rate, what is the real, what can you use from this data they are publishing. The whole Europe...
You can test the code?
Well, yeah, but yes, but you have that also in our government doing so in the region. I think that truly do believe with yes, you can. But I think that really without the UK, I think the UK is like three lights away further than the rest of the Europe. I think that the Balkan states are not, and that's maybe an important message. They are not behind the rest of the Europe or the European Union, to be honest. Like in the sense of understanding why is this important, ethical AI, etc. US is like 10 lights away, 10 lights years away from the rest of us. UK is 3 lights. We are even on the same level as Germany, to be honest, like regarding this. They're not understanding the concept and how to implement, which is the second thing.
Thank you. like as a practitioner, maybe like when you're building something, or like how do you think and assess its potential negative consequences? For example, I mean, those cases are not like that, like extreme in the sense that, you know, but like how do you approach that problem as an engineer?
My personal belief, if when you ask who is responsible if something gets wrong, I think that the system architect, the one who designed the solution, so that person, by my personal opinion, should be responsible for everything, even if the problem is in the data. The system designer have to be really aware of what is in the data. And if we speak about ethics, of course that's important, and of course we all have to be you know, to be sure that systems that we are building are ethical, so they are not making some other causes and some problems in the future, and that have to be in the very beginning with the problem definition. And some of the non-ethics very basic examples was in the beginning of the computer vision, the representation in the data set of the white and black people wasn't equal, and there was some problems when black people was really differently recognized, for example. Or for example, when we have I worked in the past on the project with fingertip detection that uses LiDAR as a sensor. So we tested that system on the skin of all people, so white, yellow, black, because when we use cameras and sensors like that, so just the optics do not respond the same on the all colors. So we have to have all that in our mind when we are building systems, and to have data sets really balanced through the all persons, not only the race but also the gender, like male and female, and all other things have to be considered at the very beginning when the system have to be built.
I would also like to add a few more details about this whole story of AI and new technologies, because we already mentioned and stated that they are developing quite quickly in a way that it's hard to track and control, even worse. But when you speak about ethical issues of the story, I'm also curious to know how your governments and how your businesses, companies, academia are approaching the issue from the social aspect, because I just came up with an example. For instance, if we have an e-service that eliminates all counter papers, you know, you don't have to go to the counter to ask for a document or something. I guess we all have pretty much the same systems administration-wise, so our counter workers will be losing their jobs gradually. I guess that leads to that's the final outcome, I think. Are you thinking about aspects like this, because it's a huge social issue? Let's face it, you know.
That's why, like, a multi-stakeholder approach and like people who are like doing sociology need to be like involved. And actually, I mean, that's also responsibility, I think, from the like educational system, because, for example, in Serbia, like that's like totally nonsense. So you have like 100 free spots for archaeologists, for example. I mean, there's no work for that, you know. And someone is responsible to the parents to say, you know, this thing probably won't work, you know. So government or like academia should like communicate that more proactively about like what are the market opportunities. And also I think it's personal responsibility, as in like culture needs to change a bit with like all this like new programs that are fast. You can get reskilled really fast, and I think the culture of that should be somehow more encouraged. But yeah, all of those things, I mean, like I recently heard that, like, it's the UK's example, because I don't know if we have the numbers here, people are not doing the research, but like, I don't know, like you have automation problem with like trucks, and you have like, I don't know, 15 million truck drivers, and you have presidential campaign, and no one mentions that, no one sees that, but like it's a problem that is like very big. I don't know the numbers here, because yet again, there are no research papers, unfortunately. and also government can like fund some of those research, and hopefully, I mean, we do have like a lot of new cool research coming in Serbia. UNDP is mostly funding them. I mean, there's society funky stuff. Yeah. Before one more question for you, Costa, like about the like accountability frameworks and like transparency around like use of automated decision making that is either already there or like I don't know, like approach or something if you already have it or you're working on, like, or just an experience in that.
Well, as I mentioned, we are in a very, when it comes to artificial intelligence, we are on very early stages, so I don't have the right data to reply to this question. However, and I would like to connect to what the previous panelist said about, you know, whether digitalization, artificial intelligence will mean that people will lose their jobs. I don't think we should make things black and white. Digitalization, artificial intelligence is complementary to what people are doing, and at the end of the day, no matter how much you train your AI assistant, you will still need the human connection at some point. So I truly hope that next year when we do this event, I will have more data for you on our AI strategy and all the AI assistants that we've launched across the government institutions. However, as our colleague from Kosovo said, I think it doesn't matter if we are late in the game. What matters is that we are in the game.
Sorry.
Impact part. What we see in our administrative processes and in governmental sector is the fact that they will be like job cuttings, but not as we perceive from our side, because there are a lot of duties that are born by the use of technology. So a proper training of them would put them in a good position to be the back end or the part who will solve the issues like live chat box or communication part, and we have to stick to the trend, and it's hard to go against the waterfall. Yeah, thank you.
I would like to say I'm pretty much optimistic about everything in life, but I'm a realistic pessimist about what you're saying. I think that I'm not, to be completely honest, I'm not agreeing with our fellow from Macedonia and Kosovo. I believe that because we have previously industrial revolution created more jobs than previously, and assuming that it's going to be the same this time, I'm not sure. I'm not a fan of generalization. I think that every case is by the case. What I can see from my perspective, that the gap between the generation is much bigger in a much smaller amount. So it will be very hard to explain to somebody who has 45 or 50 years and he has more 15 or 20 years to up his retirement, that he needs to learn something from data analytics part, etc. I'm not sure that this process can be done that easily. I think that's something like we are planning something ideal systems, and I'm not sure that this is ideal system.
Can I say something interesting?
Just
no, sure. I mean, like, how like economy and society responds. I mean, I don't know if you you can sell a very silly things actually, and there's like, I mean, like you can basically rent a hug. I mean, actually, I mean, it's like, this sounds silly, but like, I mean, I'm not talking about like prostitution, but like just human contact. People are, you know, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, like, in 20, 30 years, like, society will respond and you could monetize crazy stuff. So for example, like, I don't know, now you can be an influencer on Instagram and monetize and be like super rich because like you have the audience and someone is paying you because you're like, I think that like society and economy responds in very interesting ways.
Just to say what I'm totally agreeing, that the water is going that way, we cannot stop that, to be sure. Like that's something that what we can do if you know that from the strategic point of view, if you know that it's going this way, let's think about how we make this impact much less, because some people would not like to learn. That's totally fine. You have 50 years, you have learned a lot of stuff, so you have a lot of experience, we should value that experience. And personally, I see a technology that we should use a technology for a better and more equal world, not in inequality. Right now, because of the systems, how we are living, like all the time, very fast, very like fast living stuff, and everything profit-oriented. I think that we are reaching the problem. Sustainable development is also one of the problem. Ecology, that's a problem because we are only profit-oriented. In one part of the life, I think in our lifetime, we will need to have a big, like I was saying, that a big decision. Should we go through the dystopia and through the better and more equal world? Because both are very possible. There's no middle way right now, what we are doing. So basically, my 2 cents is that I totally agree on Jelena that people who are developing this need to be responsible, understand the impact, because we are the ones who need to contact sociologists. We are the ones who need to connect with political scientists to understand the better domain knowledge, because we understand how domain knowledge is important for developing these things and to implement in our solutions. I have spoken with a lot of representatives for big companies. They will not talk in public. They are scared about this part, because what they think that this will create more inequality technology, because it's so fastly growing. It destroy much more jobs that it will create for the first time. That's the opinion.
I have a hypothesis like extremely optimistic about the future, that AI is the biggest driver of equality, because like you have a medical problem and you don't have like yet again, you don't have, like, depending on the country you live, but like, you don't have the money to pay for a private doctor or like whatever. But like, soon enough, I believe, I mean, a lot of people are building that and a lot of people are funding it. We'll have like AI systems that will help our help. You could even like, people are also building like parts of the body. I mean, literally, and like as some of those things first appear, they're like extremely expensive, but over time they're like almost free. So like if you look at example of mobile phones, like in the 90s, if you had a mobile phone, that's like 5,000 marks. Now mobile phone, you get it for free because like they're selling you like the internet. I think that like AI will help in like so many other crucial, most important areas. That's why I'm optimistic.
If I may add, I really share Philip's optimism for the future of AI, and I think that we often can say that AI is a revolution, as it was, for example, industrial revolution. And industrial revolution killed a lot of jobs on the field. So people were manually processing the fields, and then there was trucks and other machines. But then they become so many new jobs in the industry, in the factories, etc. So that point just change how the people where they work. So now, of course, machines will replace lot of jobs actually here. But I truly believe that there will be many new jobs that we don't even know now what are those jobs in the future. But there will be new and needed, and that's why the education and the education system is important. So to stop, for example, having a lot of some kind of experts in the field that is like not needed anymore, but make more experts in the new field. But there is a good point here. If we have experienced people who are now replaced just a few years before retirement, those people are not maybe even willing or capable or whatever to learning new technologies. What about now this point? And maybe those people whose jobs will be replaced can be experts and supervisors to the machines, because machines will be new, and of course it can be mistakes, and it's expected to be mistakes. So those people can just supervise the process and be behind the scene, so having less physical like effort to do the job, but control the machines at the point that we are sure that they are working properly.
Just one sense about that. I totally agree about that. That's a human in the loop approach, and I'm a fan of that. And with human in the loop, we don't have a problem. But in the end, I said, if you are profit-oriented, we would like to cut costs. Most of the costs are basically human-based. So basically, if you have 10 people, why not have only 2 people doing that and have more autonomous AI? So basically, I'm not saying that the technology is the problem. I'm saying that we as a human race, basically, and profit-oriented system, capitalism can be an issue here, to be honest, like completely. And why I'm saying this, for example, you can. I was thinking with one of the director of the biggest institute in Serbia, like the biggest one. And he said, with the development of AI, I can see in 5 years, we'll not have any more academia research because it will be done by AI students. It will be much better. You cannot replace this one. You cannot replace people who are doing researches like in 2 years. That's the issue. I think that there is some things that we need to...
And that's a hypothesis.
It's not a hypothesis.
It is a hypothesis.
That's a hypothesis from authority who
I
has
know.
a clear sense about it.
Yeah, but still a hypothesis.
Okay.
Hypothesis is proven, right?
If I may add something, like a very concrete example, for instance, Alex, the virtual assistant, and I read about many other chatbots around the world working for all sorts of companies. They are capable of answering at least 80% of all inquiries sent by users. So if only 20% is left for real people who work behind the scene, there is no need for so many customer service operators, you know. And then also the medical issue that you mentioned, it's a great example, and it will do the civilization hopefully a lot of good stuff. But also now we already have AI machines that are capable of analyzing radiology reports, scans and everything much faster, much more accurately than any doctor can do, because they gather all the databases from all over the world, and they have much more, let's say, experience than real doctors. So for every good thing they do, I'm sure there will be also some bad thing they do. And also as for the optimism, like Jelena said, we are sure, we know it for sure, that AI will cut some jobs, but we are not sure now if they will produce jobs, new jobs. So, as I'm just speaking from the government perspective, that governments always want to play it safely, you know.
It needs to be responsible. It's government's responsibility.
We don't know about the jobs, but we know about losing the jobs. It's kind of a tricky thing to deal with, you know.
Yeah, but like some of the like things, I think that like from the like future perspective, like I don't know, like now if you need to count like 3,045 times 6,076, like you wouldn't use the pen and paper, you would just lose the calculator. So the question is like how many of the things we're working on right now manually just doesn't make any sense. As in like if, like one silly fact, like I didn't know, like before like Arabic numbers, like Europeans would like use their fingers because they had like Roman, and then like you were doing the trade and like you have a person with you who would like do something like this for 5 minutes to like, I mean like that's when you look at things from like a broader view. And I think that like we need to have like a bit of broader view, because like things change and we need to like embrace the change, because some of the things will look like extremely silly from some future perspective. Sorry for like this excursion. Maybe just one short question before we start like with the audience, like because both of you are like engaged in like community building, and which has the purpose to connect experts and like even like our people, I mean Serbian people who live and work abroad with the government, and the role of that is super important, because that way it shortens, like if you're government and you need like experts, like it's very hard for you to like go one by one. But like if you have communities that are strong, then you can ask for feedback and be involved in many different initiatives. So like maybe like, but short because we're like running out of time, like some of those experiences, like how exactly communities you're both of are contributing to the like, well, not necessarily government as such, but like public interests in, say, Serbia or the region.
So in general, I think that that collaboration is the key solution for everything. So even here in Serbia, we built this Serbian iSociety to connect university, industry, researchers, and all people who are related to artificial intelligence, including, for example, people from legal schools for ethical AI, or people from marketing for different aspects of AI. But what was my personal interest to be part of this was like many years ago when I started to work in this field and to learn about this field. I was unhappy that in this area there was not a strong community where I can reach for help. Me as a researcher, for example, or someone who worked on some problem. And I saw people from Silicon Valley, from Munich, from Israel connecting in the communities and sharing experiences. And that's why I think that's very important what Digital Serbia is doing, what Serbian AI Society is doing, and other organizations is to connect all those people who are interested in the field. And also there are a lot of our experts who was from Serbia and now work for huge companies on the very important topics that are lead researchers or directors of some company in other countries, and their experiences can help us to build our project, to build our companies or academic courses in Serbia. So I believe that collaboration is very important, and what we can do to help, for example, we are thinking about some series of lectures that we are providing to our members on interesting topics, so they can share their thoughts and opinions, and also to popularize maybe a bit artificial intelligence on this space.
Yeah, just in a few sentences, like I have experience both from Data Science Serbia, which is like an umbrella organization for everyone who would like to take part in the data science. That's the goal: data science, data analytics, AI, machine learning, etc. Business analyst, and as well as Data Science Conference as one of the leading franchise data and AI world. Basically, the important part about the community that you can create a critical mass in the buzz system because you're creating the events, etc. So basically, you get a connection not only with the let's say people from your country, they are the experts, but also Bojan Tungus, who is basically, I think he's Croatian. He's one of the leading data science worldwide. You connect with these kind of people also. You connect with worldwide experience, and you can bring that experience to
how to involve all of that in policymaking. Like
in policymaking, okay.
Yeah, like how to influence like either rules or like I don't know.
Well, okay. There is a few things. First of all, you need if you want to be think tank part organization as a think tank organization, you need to produce some kind of documents. If there's your expertise, what we are doing as a Data Science Serbia, we started creating a vocational vocabulary, like to define every vocation in the data science and AI field, because there is a total discrepancy about people, what the job they are doing, basically what that is, because somebody who is data science, basically he's doing data analytics, AI is basically doing machine learning, special, etc. So basically that's one of the things. After we finish this kind of document, which will be finished by the end of this year, first edition, and after that we need to go to the public and to talk with them, etc. It's a project. Like basically after that you can do in a policy making to maybe get into the vocabulary of the for example, to define it inside of the national vocabulary of the employees. But also what you can do, you can reach out to the government. You can take some part of the strategy, work with your companies as a community, because there is a lot of things. For example, in Serbian AI strategy, you have development of small boot camps, small courses as boot camps and conference. Basically, that's not something that will be done by the government. It will be done by the companies or by the educational part or by the communities. So basically, community can be the key player to make communication between stakeholders, because they are independent and they are from the expert side. So basically, they are not representing any company inside of it. They are representing the whole ecosystem, basically, because they are professionals who are giving their names inside of it. So that's the strength of the community, to connect everyone, to talk about it, and after that to propose some solution to the policymakers.
Yeah, also, like from the regional perspective, like if we have community here at conference, like we're Tirana or like anywhere, Montenegro. I mean, there are a lot of cool so like having those communities together makes like a resource for not just for, you know, in this particular case Serbia, but like its access to people for like also Montenegro government. Like Montenegro government can proactively tap into, I think that should be like encouraged and can have great effects, not just sharing experiences, but like sharing knowledge and doing stuff together.
Just one sentence. When we are talking about, okay, we are called Serbia having, but basically we are having much more partners. So when we are talking about it, we're having tons of partners from different countries. Okay, from Montenegro we don't have with universities, but we have, I don't know, partners from all of former Yugoslavia, from Australia, from UK, from the Austria, from, I don't know, Switzerland. In terms of academic partners, like US as well. So basically we have over 70 partners from 35 countries. So basically, and we are communicating with them. So basically it's not when you say, okay, one part of the conference happening in Belgrade, Serbia, but we are totally open to help and to give expertise and to give connections. Basically, sometimes the connection is much more important than giving expertise to everyone in the region, basically, because like I said, there is not too many of us in the terms of creating data, like to be in that terms, like we have only like, I don't know, 20 million people in this together, like with Croatia and Slovenia, because I think that, okay, they are not here, but they are part of these systems. So basically, why not use all of our connection and build some consortium between academia, companies, communities. They can reach out to some European grants and get some money from that and do some very cool research, because we have tons of experts in these countries who are doing also stuff like Jelena is doing, like basically top-notch technology, basically, and we have experts who can do that. We only need, I think, and we are lack of business people creating the environment about it.
That should be like a nice invitation, because for organizers to do something next time, do something in Montenegro, so we can invite all the academia people, you know, perhaps to join us and to listen to these discussions, because they are very fruitful. We get to hear a lot of new things, and perhaps we can establish some new connections there, because obviously most of the countries in the region are still making baby steps in this field.
Thank you. I mean, I think we can start with like audience and questions. We received one question. I will read it, and then like yeah, you can just ask the question directly. So the question is, since AI is currently processing a big amount of data, how does the government approach the implementation of data processing laws to protect the privacy? Is there a plan of adaptation to the general, yeah, it's GDPR like question, and like, yeah, an implementation in it in like our country, so yeah. Right.
Well, let me answer on behalf of all of us, because I think that we are still in such early stages of development and strategic thinking, and perhaps not even that in some examples, that this issue is still not on our to-do list. I think I speak on behalf of pretty much every country in the region, because the issue is so complex and far advanced, far ahead of us, that we cannot be answering this question so directly.
To be honest, companies who has tons of experience has an issue with this, because most of the companies, what they are doing is pseudo-anonymization, and after they realize that's why they cannot put the data outside so somebody to play with them, because if they do the full automatization, they could do open data. Their data is open data. So basically, this is and this you have a company specialized in this, like, I don't know, postal intelligence from Croatia, mostly AI from Austria, who are doing this part for the organization and for the governments, because this is tricky question. For example, just to give you perspective, if you anonymize data, for example, you take out let's say name, surname from some socioeconomical part, but you still put some of the indicators. You can still pinpoint in the smaller areas who is that person. So basically, that's only pseudonymized. The data is not completely anonymized. And basically, with doing that, you're breaching some privacy from a citizen, and basically that can have much bigger impact on the life of the person. So, like I said, it's very, very, very good topic. But I think what Dražen said, that this is the second step that we see, okay, is the step we need to take together with planning the data centers, etc., because the databases, because it needs to be implemented as procedures, what is going to be done, etc.
Yeah, we had a very cool advocacy campaign or something like that in Serbia because of these facial recognition cameras. And Share Foundation as an organization is like really focused on like digital rights and all of that. But the question is like, you have like, you need to have like, you have a database of human faces and you have cameras, and the question is, okay, like we have a video, like we have a history of like a year every street in Belgrade, like who has the access to this data, what is being used for, and I don't think that like we answer those questions in the case of facial recognition technology in Serbia. I mean, what about North Macedonia, GDPR and privacy?
I mean, textbook answer is that, I mean, GDPR should be part of the process from the start, because ensuring data protection is key. However, as my colleague mentioned, even private companies have trouble dealing with all of these things. However, I think it's a work in progress, and as we develop slowly our artificial intelligence strategy and we put them into practice, obviously this will be a subject that needs to be covered. As I mentioned, it looks simple on paper, but however, implementing it's quite complicated. And I think this is where regional cooperation is key, because I think as AI develops and it's being implemented more and more by governments, regional development is key in terms of ensuring data protection.
Thank you. We received one more question, but like I don't think we'll answer it because it uses the second buzzword, which is blockchain. We were not discussing that. We won't have like AI and blockchain and all the like. So sorry. Yeah. Like, does anyone have any more questions? Anyone, if like you can raise the hand and yeah. Either here or like in the digital world.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to the. Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add some information regarding GDPR in Kosovo. So we have the data privacy protection law in Kosovo. I mean, GDPR, it's not yet obligatory, but it's like introduced, and there is this activity at the moment that, as a preparation phase of like helping small to medium enterprises in Kosovo to prepare for such needs, because it's part of a bigger project of digital transformation, and GDPR as part of security and also just explaining the importance of how they should use data and store them and destroy, which is one of the key elements. So I mean, there is activity on this direction. I can say voluntarily, and also the private sector, especially the software development companies that are working with EU countries, they are also aware and complying with that. I just wanted to add this.
Thank you. Like, we still have a few minutes left if anyone wants to ask anything. Or maybe like you can ask each other, or that's also like viable, if that makes sense.
I just would like to thank the organizer and all panelists and also the participants for this great opportunity to share our thoughts and especially to learn new things, what is happening in the region that sometimes it's not shown in the media or we cannot see it, and we heard very good examples about the region and how they responded to the pandemic situation as well as to the new strategies which are going on. So thank you very much.
If we don't have any more questions, we can finish the event. Thank you for following us online, either on Facebook or Zoom. Thanks, panelists, for your time and for sharing your experience and knowledge and expertise. And yeah, that's it. As they would say, that's it all, folks, for now.